Welcome. It's art. It's music. It's life. It's fashion. It's listening. It's learning. It's sharing. It's determining and discerning fact from fiction, from illusion, from fantasy. It's art inspired by life. It's life inspired by art. Her story and his story and our story. I research, I question, I look for answers to share with you, exploring higher visions, and I'm mining for those gems of wisdom. Let's chat.
Today we're going to be talking to Dr. William Tiller, keynote speaker at the International Kinesiology Conference 2015 being held in Banff, Alberta, Canada. He has been featured in the movie What the Bleep Do We Know, and many of you will recognize him from there. Dr. Tiller is a professor emeritus in the Department of Material Science and Engineering at Stanford University, and he's the author of 4 groundbreaking books on psychoenergetic science. Science and Human Transformation, Subtle Energies, Intentionality, and Consciousness is but one.
Thank you. You probably want to know that I grew up in Toronto, and so did my wife, and we left there in 1955.
Holy smokes. I didn't know there was a Canadian connection there, Dr. Tiller. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a lot of...
still a Canadian.
Yeah.
I had to change for technological reasons in the States.
Well, often happens with work, unfortunately. I want to go to the big question for me is this new word. It's a new word for me. It's probably not for you because you've been doing this since the 1960s. But what is psychoenergetics? Can you tell us what that term is?
The name was really selected by the Soviets, the scientists, and I think they chose that name. That was the work that they wanted to do. But they chose that name so that their masters would think that they were doing something serious. I think that's where it came. That's where it came from, basically.
Right. Well, you were featured on the movie What the Bleep Do We Know many years ago. But that, I think, was a kind of a turning point. That and The Secret, 2 movies that really brought science and understandings more to the layperson than anything prior to that. I mean, other than the science fiction type movies, but this was kind of real life information. And since that time, have you noticed that increase in the public's awareness and desire for the information?
Yes, there is a great increase because for the same reason that I chose to not totally abandon orthodox science, but to move towards something that gave humanity more hope. Mm-hmm. That's what it is, and that's why I chose to seriously work on it.
Yeah. It seems like the time, that there's more lay people. I have this insatiable quest for knowledge and wisdom on all of these. Like, how does this world really work, and where are the places where we thought we had no power, and yet we actually are incredibly powerful? And your work seems to speak to that. Like, it's about empowering us with an understanding, but also the tools. So
I think so.
In your quest for this kind of information, what would you say was the most pivotal, shift that you discovered? I mean, in all this work, I'm sure there were many, but...
The pivotal shift occurred very early, and it was when my wife, Jean, and I were left the Westinghouse Research Labs in Pennsylvania, where I had worked for 9 years, and headed to take the position as a full professor at Stanford University with tenure back in 1964. And basically, Jean said, as we were driving with our 2 kids in the back of the car, she said, "Bill, when we get to Stanford, let's try to pull together the spiritual side of our life. And I said, yes, that sounds like a good idea. Let's try to do that. And the way we stepped down that path was not the conventional way. It was to begin to meditate. And we began to meditate following the Edgar Cayce approach. We had read something of Edgar Cayce while we were still at Stanford, at California, at Westinghouse. It's been so long, I'm afraid I'm forgetting it. And of course, I am older.
Yeah, that's fine.
And basically, we read the book called The Miracle Man of Virginia Beach. And this was Edgar Cayce. He was probably the world's greatest psychic in the last century.
Yes.
I mean, he died in the early 50s, but he was a remarkable individual. He had his own study group in the 1930s, and he followed that path for 7 years, and then he wrote 2 little books on them, and one was called Search for God Book 1, the other was called Search for God Book 2. So that was Edgar Cayce in terms of his base of understanding. He was a very spiritual man, and he had this remarkable ability to go into deep meditation, and that would open his mediumistic channels, and he could gather information that was quite remarkable to the world. And it was that kind of information. It was the information of the parapsychological phenomena, was the information of the Russians working in this path, really reaching far beyond Orthodox science. Orthodox science kept pushing that information under the rug. They tried to deny it because it wasn't internally consistent with with Orthodox science.
Yeah, and his
the
work,
last centuries.
Dr. Edward Cayce's information is still resonating with people to date. People are still discovering it. I mean, they used to call him the sleeping psychic or
sleeping prophet.
Sleeping prophet.
Sleeping prophet.
And you know, I think a lot of people have figured out or learned since that time that people like Einstein and Mozart, they all use some kind of meditation or form to bring ideas from the higher consciousness or the divine or whatever, you know, but science sort of discounted.
I call it going within and becoming inner self-managed. It's like going to an inner gym. Just like you build your physical muscles by going to an outer gym, but this one is much higher, much more important.
Yeah, and this is where
we all can do it.
Well, that's the thing, is by bringing the information. I like the fact that you didn't give up, and that even though, you know, in your chosen field, maybe Orthodox science wasn't listening, but I mean, you kept going, and you're such a gift, and you've offered such a gift to humanity because. The people, this is what I feel is the sign of the times. The people have just realized there's no wall between us, and that we are capable of, you know, having this higher learning. Even if we didn't go to university or didn't study the sciences in school, we can have this information brought to us, and you do it in such a delicious way that it makes it easier for people to grasp, I think.
Well, thank you for that. I've known a lot of stupid PhDs, and I've known a number of people who didn't even finish grade school that are remarkable and performing better than most people can.
Yeah, I find it humorous when I think back to my grade 11 physics teacher. He was such a sweet man, and he came to me at the end of the semester and he said, you know, Catherine, I know you're trying, you're working really, really hard, and you just don't get it. And he was right, I didn't. But so he generously gave me an E for effort because he really should have given me an F, but he said I can see that you really want to get this, and I just didn't, because it wasn't presented in a way I could understand, and he didn't know how to present it in a way. And I just find it humorous that today I'm exploring quantum physics and things like that I'm not getting graded on, but I sure am enjoying.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think this is the point. We can do so much if we give ourselves a chance.
Yes. And
just try.
Yeah.
I mean,
and open your mind.
Keep trying. I mean, there's nothing wrong with failing.
No.
You know, you just keep going down the road. It's all a great adventure, and don't give up.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, take care.